We've got one part left of 6.7, and this is the part that instead of being visual is more equation based. So the last thing that you're going to be asked to do in 6.7 is to take a given equation and to rewrite it to figure out what is the equation of its inverse. It's a two-step process, and it's very, very quick steps. So your first step is that your variables need to switch. Now, I do want to make one notation. A lot of times in Delta Math, instead of writing as y equals, they're going to write it as f of x equals. You can very quickly put that into y equals notation because y and f of x mean the same thing to start the process. So I'll kind of make that disclaimer first. Once you have that, your first step is going to be to switch the x's and the y's because that's what we know about inverses. The x's and y's have been switched. So if you look at this first one, instead of saying y equals x squared minus 1, you're going to say that x equals y squared minus 1. For the second one, instead of writing it as y equals 2x plus 8, you're going to write it as x equals 2y plus 8. And in the last one, you can tell the font. I took this straight from Delta Math because I wanted you to see it. So you're going to have x equals y minus 8 to the 7th. So that's step one. Get it into x equals instead of y equals form by switching the variables. Your second step could be really fast, or it could take a few steps to get there, and that is to get y by itself. Now you're going to kind of rewrite it, use all those inverse skills, add if you're trying to get rid of subtraction, multiply if you're trying to get rid of dividing, to get it solved for y, and that will be your inverse equation. So for this first one, to get y by itself, you're going to add 1 to both sides. So you have x plus 1 equals y squared. And then to get rid of a square root or squared, you're going to take the square root. So you're going to have the square root of x plus 1. And you're going to notice in Delta Math, it's going to ask you for f negative 1, that inverse notation, all you are typing in is this. What I've noticed on most of the Delta Math that I'm asking you to do, most of them are multiple choice. So you're able to go through and look at the choices and figure out which one is the correct inverse. Some of them are going to be able to be done without a lot of work at all. So this next one, I want to get y by itself. So first I'm going to subtract 8. So you have x minus 8 equals 2y. And then I'm going to divide everything by 2. And you can divide individually by 2, or you can divide all at once by 2. Once you do that, you have y by itself. So your inverse equation would be x minus 8 all over 2. Or you could write it as x over 2 minus 8 over 2. And for this third one that I found from Delta Math, the whole thing is to the 7th power. So to get rid of a 7th power, you're going to need to take the 7th root. Or you could do a 1/7 power. So you do that on both sides. That will get rid of the 7th power, so you have y minus 8. And then your second step is to add 8 to both sides. So your final answer is the 7th root of x plus 8. And that is what you'll either type in, or like I said, most of the problems are multiple choice. So you're just going to click the choice that has the right equation for the inverse. A few more. So we're going to switch our x and y first. So x equals y plus 1 squared. X equals 5 minus 2y squared. This one came from Delta Math, so we're going to make that y equals. So then when I switch my variables, it's going to be x equals. This one's kind of long. There are different levels of problems in Delta Math, and this is the highest level. So I want to do one of the highest level with you, just so you can kind of see like worst case scenario. Most of the problems I'm asking you to do are going to be level 1 or level 2. So I'm going to start at the top left. First one, I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to square root both sides. So I have the square root of x equals y plus 1. Then I need to get y by itself by subtracting 1. So you get the square root of x minus 1, and that is going to be equal to the inverse function. And this is what you're typing in, or you're looking for that choice on multiple choice. Next one's a little bit more work. We need to get y by itself. So first I'm going to subtract 5. So x minus 5 equals negative 2y squared. Divide by negative 2. You can do it all at once, or you can do it individually. And then finally, to get rid of a square, I'm going to square root both sides. So you have kind of a big fraction underneath there. Equals the inverse, or you can write it like this, of my function. And the last one, like I said, this is considered a level 3 question, which I'm not going to have you do as many of these. Really, the difference between the levels is more steps to get y by itself, more complicated pieces. So the first thing I need to do to get y by itself is I need to get rid of the 7th power. And I'm going to do it by taking the 7th root. So I'm going to have the 7th root of x. I feel like they start using higher roots in these problems. Equals the square root of y over 10 plus 3. So then my next step is to subtract 3 on both sides. So I'm going to have the square root, or the 7th root of x minus 3 equals the square root of y over 10. My next step is to get rid of the divided by 10. So the opposite of dividing by 10 is multiplying by 10. You can either put the 10 out in front or you can distribute it through. Either way is fine. And then your last step, so I'm going to just leave it out front, 10 times the, hold on, too much here. So I have 10 times the 7th root of x minus 3 equals the square root of y. And then finally, to get rid of a square root, you're going to square both sides. Now, when you square both sides, the whole thing gets squared. And you're going to see a lot of times with delta math, they're going to have things left in parentheses. So just to give you an idea, if I go back to delta math and I look at my assignments, what you're going to expect to see is we're going to have ones that are level 1, level 2, and like I said, not too much level 3, just to kind of give you an idea of what they'll look like. They will give you this function, and then they will give you multiple choice. And so your job will be to figure out how do we undo that function, switch the variables, and get y by itself to get the final answer. So that is the end of section 6.7.